Okay, so this next tutorial is about giving eyes an extra bit of pop. So things to look out for is how noisy is the shot. So that's all like the kind of grain, these little kind of dots that you can see. So from a distance it looks fine, but if we're going to do any serious editing to it, we've got the issue of noise. So this looks like it's been shot on a very open aperture, but they've had the noise, the ISO up for whatever reason. Alright, so yeah, so avoid stuff like that. Okay, this could be good, but the focus of where the person has focused looks more sharper on the nose here than on the eye. So when you're focusing your camera and you're trying to do a good portrait, make sure you focus on the eye and not the nose. I mean, there's X amount of distance between A and B. So if you have got your aperture wide open, a lot of the times it will catch the nose for its sharpness and not quite the eye. So that'll be an issue for any editing that you'll do to an eye. So finally we've got this one. See how the nose here is soft? They've managed to focus on the eye, and also, I mean, they've sharpened it up a little bit, but it doesn't look as noisy as the previous image. So let's work on these eyes here. Okay, so this is your eye, and the first thing you want to do is make a selection of the area that you're going to be working on. So I am just going to get my lasso tool, and I'm just, in fact no, I'm going to work on the white part of the eye first. So what I use for that is I'm going to get my adjustment layer, and then I'm going to go to vibrance. Okay, and that will knock out all those kind of colours that are in there that would detract from the eye itself. So if you look here, it's got like a slight blue tinge to it. Okay, but before I do that, what we need to do is try and get rid of all these kind of vein areas here in the eye. So we're going to be using the healing brush tool, and we're going to have a layer, and we're going to check it's on current and below, and we're going to try and rebuild this eye, so to speak. Let's see how we get on with the healing brush. What's that on? Aligned. Okay, good. So I can just carry on, just kind of knocking out areas. Alright, so I'm going to come back to you once I've done. Okay, so I've been using the spot, not the spot, just the plain old hill brush. So as you can see, it's beginning to sort of take shape. So this is what it would look like before, and this is what it looked like afterwards. I use a combination of soft and hard brushes. When I was using the soft brush, it's good to a degree, but then you start kind of losing some of the density of the image. So I've got it on a hard brush now. I'm just going to do these last bits here. Let's get rid of that. There we go. I've taken alignment off, so I'm constantly kind of sort of selecting the different areas just to sort of give it a nice kind of finish. Okay, it's giving me a bit of chip, that corner. Let's try and select from over here. There we go. Alright, so we got that. So what you'll notice in the eye, like how we started off with, you get this kind of almost blue colour cast into the eye. And we want to try and make that cast white. So if we take the vibrance away, it hopefully gives us a bit more of like a white tinge that we can work with. But before I do that, I'm just gonna combine those two layers and just finish off tidying up these bits of red. So yeah, I'm going to be using the heel brush and maybe a little bit of the clone brush just to finish it off. And with this kind of tear duct area here, we want to keep aspects of this in, but we don't want to be too we don't want that kind of sharp cut off between the reds and the whites. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to work on another layer, and then we're going to sort of go over it as though we would normally. Okay. So we're getting bits of eyelash in here as well. So we don't want to be too heavy-handed with areas like that. So let's just grab these areas here. That's looking all right. And then let's just grab a massive area just to finish it off. Okay, so that's looking all right. So we've done that on another layer, and the reason why we've done that is because we can drop the opacity of that layer down slightly, just so we're getting some of that sort of tear duct in place. Okay. So let's combine those two layers. I just want to clean this section up here, so I'm just going to use my clone stamp, which is, where's it gone? Stamp. There we go. And I'm just kind of going to grab that area there, maybe this area here. What's that look like? Alright, I'm trying to find an area that will just kind of make that line slightly better. So let's grab from there, and then computer, grab from there, and that's joining up. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks fine. Okay, so there we go. So we're getting some of the eye in place. And one thing that you can do with eyes is, so before, after, is go into your Liquify tool, filter, Liquify, and what this does is that Photoshop automatically detects where the eyes are, or the face in general. So you can play around with the eyes. Okay, so they tend to make eyes slightly bigger, but it's all about subtlety. If you make it obvious that something's gone on, then people will sort of pull you up on it. So we just make that eye slightly bigger, that one slightly bigger. Let's have a look at the height. Maybe about there, maybe about there. Width. I'm trying to get some roundness in there. There we go. Tilt. No, we don't need to tilt. Maybe the other eye. There we go. Bring those eyes in, bring those eyes out. A little bit like that. So like I've said before in other videos, you tend to sort of go overboard, so just try and bring yourself back a little bit. Look at what you've done, and then just nudge things down slightly. It's just a good sort of rule of thumb, really, just to sort of keep that balance going. So like height, let's bring that down to about there. Let's bring that down a bit. So it's still looking more or less natural. There's a little angle here which is a bit annoying to work with. There, check, check, check. Let's tilt. Somewhat addresses that angle. That's not kind of even. Let's just make that eye slightly bigger. Okay, so you've got to try and get a balance with the eye. But it's detected this one okay, but this one, because of the angle, there. Okay, so we're just going to leave it like that. About there. But when it does do face detection, it also sort of detects other bits as well. But this one we're just looking at how to make a decent eye. Okay, but it's worth sort of considering the sort of aspects around the eyes, such as the nose and the shape of the face. Let's bring that in slightly. Jawline. I want to make it too pointy. There we go. Let's bring that back. That's fine there. And the forehead. Woo. Yeah. So we don't really need to do much of the face anyway. Sorry, the face shape. Okay, so let's have a look. Click OK. Remember, subtlety is the key to this kind of stuff. Let's zoom out. Let's have a look at the before and after. So it's only slight adjustments, but it's those things we kind of pick up on. It's the little details. Alright, so let's go into this eye. So now what we need to do is try and use object selection to select parts of the eye that we want to bring the vibrance layer into. Go around here like this. hopefully I'll make a good selection. Okay, a little bit under here. No, that's not too bad. Still having a bit of issue with that. A little bit there. Alright, good. So we're going to feather this. Feather it by not much at all. Let's say 1 pixel. And then we're going to go up to our mask. And then we're just going to brush in white with a soft brush. Not 100% totally, because we want it to still have a bit of natural look to it, but around 80%. So let's have a look what that looks like. Control D. All right, that looks all right actually. So we're losing that kind of blue that we had in there. I'm just going to bring the opacity down ever so slightly, just to make it still seem natural. See, some people just paint the eye in white and it just looks wrong. Let's have a look at our different blend modes. So lighten, screen. What I'm going to do is keep that, do a copy of it, and then I'm going to go to the screen blend mode. But this time I'm just going to go back to my black brush. Keyboard seems to have stopped working. And then just gently, with an opacity around 70, just do these corner bits here. Because what that does is helps keep the shape. So we've got this layer and we've got this layer. So keeping the shape of the eye, there's kind of 3-dimensionalness to it. Let's go up to 100% and get the very corners now. So we've got that pop, and let's just bring the opacity up on that. Okay, so already we begin to see like a difference in the eyes. Okay, so it's making them pop but also keeping it realistic. Okay, so we've worked. You can spend a bit more time if you want, sort of working on the white part of the eye, just tidying it up just a little bit, or just evening it out. You know, you might use the blur tool ever so slightly, just to sort of like get a nice kind of evenness to it, but you don't want to be too hectic with the blur tool, because otherwise, you know, you'll begin to lose that kind of sharpness that we saw in that example I showed you. So we're going to use this ever so gently just to sort of blur around the edges, to just try and even it out just slightly. Okay, let's try and blur that up a little bit. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's all about subtlety. You don't want to go too overboard, because you'll lose. It'll just look unreal. So I'm just going to use a spot heal now, just to sort of tidy up those little last bits, just to sort of tidy it up. Okay, so let's get back to our eye. So one thing I've noticed, if you look here, is a softbox. Okay, which is shaped like what's called a octobox, so something like that, which is good for getting that nice kind of even soft light, to help you kind of avoid shadows. So that's what is being reflected there. I mean, it's good to have, they're called catch lights, but it's good to have a catch light so that the light on this image is slightly above her head, and you can see them in both eyes, that catch light. And technically, in my opinion, it's better to have the catch light lower, because you're making a point of it when you can actually see it. Otherwise, it looks a little bit odd when the eyelashes are covering it. But we'll get to that later. So the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to try and use this green colour. So we're going to get a layer, and then we're going to get our eyedropper, and we're going to select that green. Okay, let's see if we can find it. Okay, nice and light colour. Let's go a little bit darker. Yeah, let's try that. So we're going to go onto our layer, and we are going to just brush over the eye like that. And then we're going to look at our blend modes. Okay, just to give it a kick. So we're going to look at overlay. Which helps just bring in that colour of the green. This gives it a slight nice kick to it. But we need our mask, because otherwise you're going to be green, adding green to the areas of white that we've just added, as well as the eyelashes. So 100%, let's just go around the eye like so, and then just add that. Okay, so there we go. So we're adding a bit more of a kick to that green. Okay, so I've got a slight kick to those greens there on this layer. Okay, so I'm getting those through, but at the same time I want to try and remove some of this brown. So what I've done here is I've added some layers here to help me try and get the colour and gauge the colour. Alright, so the first thing I've done is I've added a grey mask over the top on what's called luminosity. So that allows kind of light to come through and colours. And so with that, I will look at the eye, and then I've gone on to my selective colour. Okay, so this is a good way of gauging the colours. And so I can see the colours, I've added vibrance. So I can see what colours need changing. Alright, so let's just turn that off. The green's around here. And so it's these yellows in that I want to try and change. So overall, I want to try and get this kind of cyan color. All right, so with the selective color, what you need to do is, if you look at each of these, red, yellows, greens, and so on and so on, I've taken all their color properties away, and then using the whites and the neutrals and the blacks, I've kind of tweaked them to help me sort of identify that color a little bit more. So if you look here, that would be I can't remember the biological name for it, but the black ring that kind of goes around your eye, that's your pupil there, and of course that's the eyebrows. So they're quite grey, aren't they? Because there's hardly any colour there. If I take that out, it's going to just kind of reveal the colours underneath. If I whack it up, and so on and so on. So what I can now do is, I'm just going to put that back in its group. And this is a good way for sort of like looking at skin properties. If you ever you're dealing with skin and tones in the skin. So this kind of darker area, which is a highlight, you know, you might want to work on that. The darker areas around here is an area that you could work on. Maybe this area here, this highlight, this strip of white, you might want to add a slight bit of the red tones here, just to sort of even it out. And if you look at these reds, they're a lot more sort of vivid than the skin tone reds. But anyway, that's for a later date. You know? Or you could use it as a device for finding out where all these little bits of colour are. Okay, in the blemishes. You know, and some Photoshop retouchers, especially in the fashion industry, will spend ages just kind of looking for these kind of little bits of blemishes to try and sort of knock out. And so using the colour combinations, which I've shown you, you can just kind of, you know, find out where they are and begin to sort of knock them out, so to speak. And just kind of making that difference. I mean, I'm just using the spot here at the moment because they're literally like pixels big, but you know, some professionals will go straight into the pixels and then on a 1 pixel brush, you know, literally sort of take out each pixel until, you know, they get it how they want it. And that's the pixels. But, you know, something like that could take a very long time because there's bits of makeup in there, I'm assuming, as well. That's, you know, a light bit of kind of makeup just in the eye there. Alright, so we're working on this bit. So the next thing we might want to do is, we've got our colours. We can see all the different kind of colours that are in the skin there, the oranges and the and all these purpley bits, you know, that might want to get rid of for whatever reason. And now we're looking at this. So first of all, is our layer being affected? So when we added that green, we can now see where it's affected, you know, the green overlay. So there's still some in the eyebrows and there's still some in this edge bit here. So let's sort that out first. Okay, so black brush, I'm just gonna, is that on a black brush? Yeah. I'm gonna go around here. Okay. Just to remove some of that greenness that we've added. Now we can see another colour emerging. Is any in that eyelash? There is a little bit in the softbox, but let's just go around here and just kind of get rid of some of that. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to get a curves adjustment layer. Okay, and so curves is all about the kind of, it's a little bit like levels, but I would tend to use it in terms of creating a contrast between tones, where the levels is how much of your darks, so your brights, are in your image. So there's a yellow there, and the opposite of yellow is blue. So we're going to try and get this colour to match that colour. So first of all, let's just select that area there. Okay, I'm just going to do this quickly. Let's grab that bit, let's grab around here, because otherwise if we do it to the entire thing, it's going to start changing the entire thing. So let's get that yellow first, which is there. There's a little bit of it here. And we'll grab that yellow, maybe around here, and around here, and around here. And we'll just get that bit for now as well. Alright, so with our curves adjustment layer, I'll just grab another one so it selects the area that I want to work on. So curves, I'm going to get that curves adjustment layer, which, because it's such a small area, you know, you can hardly see it, but it's selected the area. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and knock that yellow into blue, and try and create that cyan colour. So I'm on blue now, and the opposite of yellow is blue. So if I go downwards, that should get more yellowy, but if I go upwards, I'll start getting some of that blue. Now we've got cyan. The opposite of cyan is red. So if I go up, it's going to make it red, but if I go down, I can start getting that cyan colour, which we've kind of identified here. Alright, so there we go, we've got some of the red cyans back. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so let's take that layer off, see what it looks like now. So we're getting an overall look. Let's see if we can eyeball it now, bringing that red further down, and then let's just double up our overlay. There we go. Don't want it too strong, so let's bring it down slightly. There we go. So we've kind of converted the eye from this colour. I'm trying to make those greens pop. Okay. So you can go in there and just kind of like turn up the vibrance, but it's a way of making it fake, and part of the skill of Photoshop is to try and make things natural, not too obvious. So I'm just going to do that again, but this time I'm going to try and get these darker greens here. So I'm just going to pause it. So now I've got the green selected there. I'm just going to turn that yellow one off, and then now add another curves. Now that's the layer one. Add another curves there, but this time I'm going to try and turn the green into that cyan color. So opposite of green is magenta, but first of all, let's see what happens if we add a bit of blue. So all we need is that tad little bit of blue in there. I think I might just add a little bit more of green. Right, let's take away the green. Add a bit of red. There we go. Let's have a look at what that looks like. Let's turn that one on, that one on, that one off. So we're getting a nice kind of vibe going now. But let's see what happens if we take one of our overlay layers and just turn it up ever so slightly. There we go. A lot more interest going off in the eyes now. Okay. So just finally what we're going to do now is we're going to put all these into a group. Okay. Call it eye color for eye color. And then we are going to put a mask on it. And then just mask back certain areas, 90% brush. There we go. So make that smaller so we're not getting that brown colour back. And there we go. Let's just go around the edges. There. And there. Keep it like that. And then we'll get a levels adjustment. And then we're just going to slightly add a kick to it there. Just to make it a little bit more mysterious. And then add that onto our eyes. So I've clipped it, but it's not. It's only clipping to the colour. But I just want to try and get some of this black circle back. So I'm just going to. I don't want to do the entire face. I just want to do that area there. So I'm going to invert that, and then with a brush at about 80%, I'm going to just go background here. And here, and then I'm going to come back to that, kick it up to 90, there we go. Just brings back some of that definition. Alright, that's coming along, but like I said, always remember just to pull back a little bit in terms of your editing, okay? So I'm just going to bring that down ever so slightly to about there, I think, just to make it seem a bit more natural. Alright, okay, so the next thing we're going to move on to is we are going to just work on let's have a work on this area here. Okay, so we're going to work on the area here just to try and give it a bit more razzmatazz and brighten it up a little bit. The image itself doesn't need too much brightening up, but we've got like a sort of dark circles here and here. So I've set this up as follows. So I've done a high pass filter there. So if you remember, a high pass filter is, I'll just turn these off, is I've done a copy of this layer, I've gone up to filter and then a high pass, and it's relatively low. It's just so I can see the area that I want to work on. Alright, so that's a high pass filter. I put a layer in between. And then I've turned it into a smart object, which I'll discuss at another date. And then what's important is You normally use the high pass for sharpening objects, but I've used my clipping mask. See the Alt which comes on there? If I press Alt, I get the clipping mask on the line. So if I just left it on the high pass, it's kind of sharpened the area, but I don't want that. What I want to do is get my eyedropper tool and pick a color. So you see how that's kind of a darkish brown, and this area here is a little bit lighter. That's where the highlight is kind of hitting. So you want to find something in between these colors and this color. So I'm going to look over here and then find the color that I want to use. So let's have a look. If you press switch between brushes, and you can see where is dark and where is bright. Okay. Alright, so let's have a look how dark it is up here. It's quite dark. Let's have a look. Let's go with this colour. Alright, so and then between your high pass and your picture, you've created a clipping mask to an empty layer. I'm just going to take that off and try that again. I want it 5x5. If you remember previous videos, that's kind of like the average of the color. So if it was on point sample, I'd be doing it color for color, but I get kind of like a blend really. So let's just do that one more time. So let's find dark color is about that one on average. And then let's try and find something a little brighter. There we go. Let's try that. Make sure you have it on current and below, because you want to affect both these layers. Okay, so yeah, let's try that. And then let's switch that round. Just find something slightly bright, not too bright, because your highlights are down here, but something that just gives it a nice kind of kick from that browny colour, that grey. There we go. Let's try that. So go on to brush. Now, this is where it's an area to practice, much like the trees that we talked about in previous videos. But if I just whack that on at 100%, it's just going to do that, isn't it? And we don't want that. You have to be relatively fine. So I've clicked 07, and what I'm going to do is just paint ever so gently around the eyes, just so it kind of matches up. And then now and again I will check my colours just to sort of blend areas in. But if I go too heavy, it looks really obvious. Okay, so I'll come back to you in a bit. Okay, so we're almost there. So that was the eye, and now we've kind of filled in that kind of dark circles. Alright, let's have a look from a distance. Looks alright. I'm just going to now select from the highlight area this kind of whiter, brighter colour. Let's find the brightest colour. There we go. I'm going to bring that down to about 4, and then I'm just going to go over the entire area just to merge the two in. So bright on that area, bright on the edges, like so. Then I'm going to get some of the darker area here, and then with a lower brush only 2%. It isn't negligible, but it is in the details. Just go over that kind of area there. It's gone up to 20%. Don't want that. 0.2. There we go. Let's just go over the areas there. So essentially it's a form of airbrushing that we're doing. We're just working on the bits under the eyes. So if I was doing like a total face retouch, you know, I'd work on all this kind of sort of area around here just to make it blend. Okay, so that's before, that's after. Looks all right. Bit of shape there missing. In Photoshop, you kind of deconstruct to reconstruct. You take down and then you rebuild. Okay, so I'm just going to get my eraser tool. Sorry, my brush tool, and then I'm just going to add a gradient map, black and white gradient map. Okay, reverse. So this is a good way of seeing how much of the colours, the tones, the shades are. So you see how it's kind of whiter there, where the highlight is. But if we look at the before, how dark that circle was, now we can look at the after. So we've kind of matched it. So I'm just going to get a black brush and then just get rid of where I have gone over the areas. So around there slightly around here, there we go. That looks better. Let's double check. Yeah. Okay. So that's looking all right. But like I said, always first I'm going to check my layers, see if there's anything else that will just blend that in slightly. So let's have a look. We're brightening it, the area up. Let's have a look at screen color dodge. A little bit too bright, I think. In fact, let's do this with our black and white gradient on, so we can see. Ooh, that color dodge looks alright. So look. There we go. So we've blended in the eye. We've got some kind of lines up here, and I've spent a bit more time on it and try and sort of adjust these areas here, which, you know, this is why the kind of professionals who go into the pixels and change each pixel one by one until it's effective. But as you can see, before and after, before and after. I'm just going to drop it back ever so slightly, just so, you know, because it is natural to have some darkness under the eyes. But I'm going to drop it to about there we go, fine. Okay, so our eye is coming along quite nicely. So I'm just going to merge all those. Before I do that, yeah, I'm just going to merge all these. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is our after, and this is our before. So it's slowly getting there, which is good. One thing with portrait photography, I mean, I don't really have to do much of it here, but maybe on this side, so I'll use this side as an example, is one of the first things that you should do. The reason why I haven't done it because there's no hair over the eye, but one of the first things you should do is try and remove any stray hairs. So let's try and get rid of that one over there. So I've got an empty layer. I've got the healing brush. I'm just gonna have it around there. See how that works. I'm going to try and just get rid of this stray hair there. It's kind of going over the face a little bit. So let's go there, target. What have I got it on? And then just kind of go over like that. So we can, just going to stick it on aligned. There we go. So see how I'm constantly like targeting areas. Like kind of randomizes it. If you just kind of go target area and straight up like that, you get like a weird line. So you got to kind of dab at the area that you're working on. There's also little bits of white. It's like white snow almost. It's kind of all over the place. These hairs look a bit strange here, so let's just dab it on this side, from this side, just to sort of randomize it, but keep an eye on your actual color tones. So I'm just going to bring down the hardness a little bit. And then just try and be a bit more softer with it. Okay, let's get these last bits here. There we go, we've taken all that bit of fluff out. Alright, so next. Let's combine those. Let's just show you the before and after. Okay, so we've just kind of tidied it up a little bit. There's another bit there. Let's get rid of that. There we go. There we go. Okay, so next we will see that softbox is really annoying me. I just want to see what it looks like if we just add a bit of vividness, vibrance to the greens. Just a slight bit there. That looks quite nice. Saturation. See, the first go, people tend to sort of like go with a saturation, but it doesn't look right. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that. Like that, and then just what I want to do is have it kind of like so a strong kind of green round this first bit here, and then kind of slightly fading out. So I'm going to go at 90%. I'm going to use a white brush and just kind of go around this first edge bit there. Let's go wipe that up a little bit to about there, maybe a little bit of saturation, and then just work on this outside layer here. Press X, and then I'm going to go to 40%, and now I'm back on a black brush and just go around the edges there. So we're giving a nice little pop to it. There we go. Okay, so that's looking good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, which might sound a little bit odd, but now we're going to darken the area. Okay, we've just done all this. It's all about having control over your eye, the way that you want it, as opposed to the way it's come out in camera. So like I was saying, deconstruct, reconstruct. So I'm going to go to curves. I'm not going to do anything to this. I'm just going to go to color, burn. Okay. And then I'm going to get it to a level that looks decent there. I'm going to invert it. And then I am going to, with a soft brush, about, let's just say 68. You can tone it down afterwards. We're going to go over certain areas to help give it that extra kick. So first of all, at 70%, I am going to go around the eyelashes, the eyebrows. I'm just kind of beef those up a little bit in terms of the colour. I'm going to turn down to about 60 there and just do these eyelashes, because the whole idea is that we want to make it pop. So colour works in a, blacks and whites works in a way that if for whatever reason you've got a white object, in this case an eye, if you surround it with black, it'll just give an extra pop to the eye, make it kind of more eye-catching, make it as though it's standing out that little bit more. Alright, so let's just go over these like that. Okay. Alright, so there we go. That's all that. And then I am going to go up to 80% and then just go round here. Maybe try it at 75 so it's not too heavy. Go around the outside of the greens that we've been working on, like so, and then just add a little kick to the pupil at 90. So, for whatever reason, bigger pupils are more appealing. But if I just did it with a just like a black brush, instead of burning in the colour, it just looks like it's almost stuck on in a way. Didn't look right. So we will add it through colour dodge, like colour burn. So 80% like that. Oh, it looks alright, that, doesn't it? There we go, that's better. Through the curves layer. Alright. So I think I actually might just add a little bit here. So I'm going to get a black brush, have it about 50%, and then just soft brush, and then just add to that kind of look there. Let's go through these blend modes. Just click and multiply on it. There we go. So we give it that extra kick. All right. So it's getting there. But I just want to sort of pull back a little bit on that pupil there. Bring that down just ever so slightly. Okay. So we're going to get another curves layer. And we're going to do the same again. I'm going to put it onto color burn. In fact, we're going to put it onto multiply. This might seem really strange considering we've already kind of lightened up an area, but now we're going to do the whole area ever so slightly. So let's get our color area there, and then let's have a look. 100%. We don't want that. I'm going to go down to let's just try it on 7% for now, and we're just going to kind of go around the whole sort of area like so. Okay, just going to darken that area slightly, maybe bring out some of the cheekbone there. Okay, like that, like that, like that, like that. Let's bring some of that back up here in highlighted areas. And once we've done that, we're going to go back into our eye and then just with a 90% brush that's black, we're just going to bring back the eye itself. So it's the same sort of approach. If you darken the areas, it just makes that white area pop that little bit more. Okay, so let's just bring that down slightly. There we go. All right, so kind of getting there. Just need to do some finishing touches now. Now that softbox is really annoying me, so I'm just going to get rid of that softbox using the clone, and then I'm going to put another softbox in afterwards, just to sort of show you as an approach. So I'm going to combine all these layers. Okay. All right, so that's our before, that's our after. All right, so it's got a nice kick to it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove that softbox. So let's get that. And I'm going to try to begin with by just, first of all, I'm going to tidy that up. These kind of marks that are here, just so it looks a bit more natural. There we go. So I'm going to attempt to take this bit of the eyebrow and pop it on that side. So lasso tool, let's try and get it from about here, around there, like that. And then we're going to feather it, Shift F6, by just 2 pixels, we'll try, and then get a copy of it. And we're going to bring this over to the other side. I'm going to keep my finger on Shift, and that's going to flip it like so. Okay. But if you look, the eyelashes are kind of veering off to the other side, aren't they? A bit like that. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. let's have a look at that. Oh, that's not too bad. Okay, and I'm just gonna maybe tuck it up just ever so slightly. There. Alright. That's not too bad at all, that. I'm just going to get a mask and just kind of just blend it a little bit more. So 10% white mask, black brush, and then just kind of go in there like that just to get those kind of nooks and crannies. Okay, so I might work on that a little bit longer, but for this I'm quite happy with that. That looks quite cool. I'm just going to blend those layers together. It's that there. Blend those layers together just so they look a bit more together. Fine. Okay, let's merge those, and then I'm going to add a little bit more levels to that. The curves actually. There we go. Let's bring that down, and then I'm just going to paint in these eyelashes. Let's try it 40%. There we go. Alright, so, from a distance, the softbox is now gone. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to darken up those areas. The next thing I'm going to do is that I need a really low, small 5 pixel brush, and then again I'm just going to go around the edges ever so slightly. In fact, I'm going to use a black layer for that. Yeah, so let's put it on 3%, 30%, what's that like? A little bit lower, 20%, there we go, that's fine. And just kind of go around the outline. Alright. Go over this red bit here. Around here. And there. I should have spent a bit more time with this white area here, and probably should have had it on a more of a harder brush. There we go, around like that. That's looking good. And then on a lower, set around 10. I'm just gonna do this shading in here. Okay, around the eye. Just gonna get my razor and just tidy those little bits up. There we go. That's fine. There we go. All right. And then I'm just going to drop that ever so slightly. About there. Okay. All right. So get a nice kick to that eye. It's beginning to nicely sort of pop at us. So let's just merge all that. This is our before, this is our after. Before, after. So the next thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of interest to the eye. Okay. And the way we're going to do that is with our brush, we are going to have it on 2 pixels. That's how big our brush is. And we're going to have it on black to begin with. And what I'm going to do is on all these edges around the eye here, let's make that even smaller at 2 pixels. 1 pixel, why not? Is that I'm going to just put in little bits of information like that. Alright, it takes a bit of time, so I'm going to pause it and then I'm going to do this. So the way you work is you kind of work out from the eye. Okay, don't worry if you kind of do a strange line or you miss something, but follow the shape of the eye. Okay, so let's go a little bit bigger on the brush on the outside. And we're following the shape of the eye as so. Okay, let's bring it down a little bit lower. Okay. Alright, let's get another layer. I'm going to turn this one off. Now we're going to do the same but using a white brush. We're going to try and go around the edges of the darker areas. Okay. Alright, so we now have some black dots and lines, and we now have some white dots and lines. Okay, but I'm also going to put in a catch light. So it's best to zoom out on this one because otherwise you end up making it far too big. So let's start off with 100% and we will add it about there. Right, so yeah, you want it smaller than the pupil ideally. Let's put it up there a little bit. There. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, there, and boom. Alright, so I mean I'm trying to match up with that one, but I didn't want it tucked under the eyebrows so much. So I'm gonna pop it just there on the edge. There, that looks good. Okay, I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna show you 2 different approaches actually. So we've got one that's soft, and I'm just going to do one that's completely there we go, like that, but I'm going to come back to that. Okay, so we got these, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to our filter, we're going to go to our blur, and we're going to blur it just to the point where it begins to lose the shapes. Okay, 1.2 looks fine. Okay, let's try with the whites. Filter at the top will always be the last thing that you've used in terms of filters, so we can just do that. Okay, so that's okay, but I think we're going to have to just blur it just a little bit more than the blacks. So let's put it up to there. Alright, that looks all good. That looks quite cool. Let's maybe put the blacks on top and then just tone down those whites slightly. And then what we can do is we can put those into a group. Okay, and then we can experiment with the different different blend modes. So let's have a look at that one. Let's have a look at hard light. Okay, I quite like the normal one. And then just drop that ever so slightly. There we go. And then just merge that into its own group. So we've merged that folder slightly. So that is looking quite good. Alright, that catch light. So let's try the hard brush first. I'm going to put it on overlay, see what that does. Okay, good. So I'm going to put it on soft light to begin with, and then Gaussian blur, then just get it to a point where it looks natural. There we go. Then I'm going to copy that just to sort of give it a bit more oomph. I wonder if I can add any levels to it. So nah. Okay. Let's try our right. Let's just combine those into a group. And let's have a look at our softer one. So if we blur that, it's going to kind of look like what we had before. Okay. Which one do I prefer, that one or that one? See, what's working now is that we've kind of got two working quite nicely together. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete those. So I've got that. Okay. So I'm going to go like that, and then I'm going to, with a soft brush, bring that down, pop that about there. I'll make my brush smaller, and then I'm going to use a hard brush, and then just put a white dot in just there, and then I'm going to blur that just to give it a nice kind of pop, different kind of layers. Let's go back. All right, Control T to transform it, and I'm just going to make it just a little bit smaller. There we go. Like so. Okay. All right, that looks a lot better than the Octo box. Okay, so the final thing that we want to do is just give it a little kick in terms of its sharpness. So I'm just going to merge all these together. Okay, and then I'm going to copy that, filter, other high pass, and I just want to get it to a point where the lines here are coming through. Alright, let's put that on soft light. Okay, so what we've got is a slight sharpness there. I'm going to put a mask on, I'm going to invert that mask, and I'm just going to work on the eye here. Alright, and I'm going to do it at about 80%. Only slight, but it does give it that extra kick. Alright, there we go. And then I'm just going to tone that down ever so slightly. There we go. One thing I've forgotten to do. So I'm just going to turn that off. Is empty layer. Let's see what we can do this with actually. With an empty layer, what we're going to do is we're going to get a black brush and we're going to have it on a soft, and then we're going to have that really low down at about 9%. I'm just going to add some shading in. The reason why we add shading, and if you've ever seen people who've done eyes before, they can look really, really flat and fake, but we want to try and give it a sense of shape. Okay, so let's just go in here a little bit, go in here a little bit, and then slightly go on the bottom part of the eye. And I'm doing this on the white areas. I'm going to delete and erase all this stuff, so don't worry about that too much. And then I'm going to raise my opacity to 15. I'm going to cause a bit of a shadow over the top of the eye there. Alright, so with my eraser I'm going to go in and take out the areas that I did not want to darken. Oh, don't want that, want it on a soft brush. Soft eraser, there we go. In fact I'm going to, yeah, let's do it there. There we go, let's get that, and around here. Yeah, okay. Got some areas here to get rid of, over here. Something over there to get rid of, there we go. And then I'm just going to drop that down. Let's have a look at our blend options. Okay, I'm going to put it on overlay. And that just creates that little bit of shadow. And then I'm just going to paint a little bit more in the tear ducts down here. This is where it's the darkest. There we go. And there. There we go. And then just a final line just to go there. Just so it's got a bit more dimension to it. Alright. And then I'm going to get my mask. And then on the bottom half, I'm just going to mask on the bottom half here. Make sure it's on black. There we go. Not the top half, just the bottom half. Maybe a little bit around the sides here. Just so it looks alright. And then what's this one on? Let's bring that down slightly and then do the same. Put a mask on and then just do these areas here. Okay, so you know it's getting there. Looks kind of cool. It's got a nice pop to it. And so we want to sharpen the area here. All right, and then we want to sharpen once again. So we need a copy, and then we are going to add the high pass. Before I do that, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to get another curves layer. I'm going to pop it up just ever so slightly, and then this time I'm going to put it on color dodge. Alright, so what we're going to do here is I've inverted the color dodge, and then I'm going to select my mask, and then just around where I've added that softbox at about, well, I'll just do it on 100% so you can see it. I'm just going to add these kind of glimmers of light either side of the eye, maybe a little bit down here as well, just to give it a kick, and there. And then I'm going to drop the opacity. So let's have a look from a distance. Bit much. Drop it to 30. Alright, so that's looking kind of cool. And then merge that into that. So finally, I say that quite a lot. Let's do a copy, filter, other, high pass, and this time we're just going to look at the actual colors of the eye. So soft light, and then I'm going to do 2 copies of that actually. And then on the high pass filter, we're going to adjust it that way, and then with a white brush at about 70%, we're going to brush outwards from the pupil. Okay, just to give that pupil that little extra kick. Okay, softbox is annoying me now, but that'll do. Alright, so the last thing that you want to do is I'm going to combine those two. I'm going to have a look through the blend modes. Just to give it a bit more of a kick, go with screen. And then likewise, I'm going to cover that. And then just do this inner circle here, just so it kind of builds out. So white brush, and let's just put it on 50%. There we go. There we go, very nice. Let's put a bit more around here. Oh, don't like that. There. Okay, let's bring that down slightly. There we go. And the final thing you want to do is just go to your curves adjustment again. Bring down the darkness just slightly. And then invert it, and then just go over those bits when you sharpened, it created more contrast, just to give it that va-va-voom. So here, let's go follow the line, there we go, ever so slightly, let's go around there, bit much there, let's go to 20%, and then let's add a little bit more to here. Okay, and then let's just bring that down ever so slightly. about there. Merge those, and then just finish it off with any little bits that have got through the net, so to speak. So like that white dot there, these white dots here, that dot there. Zoom into it. There. Anything that looks slightly out of place. Okay, there we go. Just to sort of tidy it up a little bit. Right, I'm just going to pause it there. Okay, and there we have it. So let's have a look. This is our before, and this is our after. Before, after. Looks a little bit painted, and I should have used a bit more of a harder brush on the whites to begin with, but overall, you know, I'm quite happy with the updates on the softbox. Does look a little bit painted, but there's a certain level of intriguement now in the eye. If I hadn't have, what I should have done is had an extra copy after I did the changes to the using the Liquify, because that way I can drop it slightly on the opacity here, but I didn't have that layer, didn't save a layer after the Liquify, so make sure you do 2 layers. But overall, I am relatively happy with that. Okay, so that is a full eye tutorial. Before, after. Before, after. Remember, the key is subtlety. Okay.